He will bring with him will put an end to any hope that women have of getting the rights that we had in Roe versus Wade. I believe they will put an end to any gay marriage. They will put an end to gay adoption. It's not going to hurt me. I'm 70. It's not going to do anything to me, but it's going to do stuff to young people. And that really scares me and it really bothers me.
If you're liking this so far, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's talk about how this legendary takedown even went down. Was it a tweet so savage that Elon probably had to resist the urge to ban capital letters just to soften the blow? Or maybe it was one of those no-holds-barred TV appearances where she didn't just join the conversation, she hijacked the whole show and turned it into a solo roast so sharp it left scorch marks on the set. Or, and honestly this one's the fan favorite, was it a full-blown cinematic moment? The kind where every word rolled off her tongue like the grand finale of a rock opera, all fire, flair, and flawless delivery? Because let's be real, if there's one person on this planet who can transform dragging a former president into a Grammy-level performance, it's Cher. And then came the moment that echoed across the globe. It didn't matter if you were doom-scrolling on your phone, half-watching TV, or just chilling at a coffee shop minding your own business. Boom, there it was. A call-out so fierce it stopped conversations mid-sentence, made people snap their heads back for a second look, and had everyone scrambling to rewind or refresh their feeds like, wait, did she actually say that? Oh, she did. She absolutely did, and she didn't hold back an ounce.
I will try and be as direct and honest with you as I possibly can be. I am positive that you are the most unattractive man I have ever met in my entire life. You have demonstrated every loathsome characteristic of the male personality and even discovered a few new ones.
Somewhere deep inside the gold-plated halls of Mar-a-Lago, you just know Trump probably choked on his Diet Coke the moment Cher's words hit the airwaves. 1 second, he was lounging in his usual routine, probably half-heartedly bragging about his historic golf swing, rewriting reality in all caps on Truth Social, or claiming he personally invented the word success. And the next, full-on spit take. Phones were blowing up, aides were running around like the place had been raided by logic and common sense, and Fox News producers were already slapping together an emergency segment, desperate to spin the moment like it was a misunderstood compliment instead of the verbal demolition it really was. Meanwhile, the internet didn't wait for permission to explode. It went straight to DEFCON 1. Twitter, or X, if you're Elon's favorite fan, turned into an all-out digital war zone. Memes flying like shrapnel from every direction. Instagram became a non-stop assembly line of savage screenshots and spicy captions, while TikTok was straight up doing laps around the wreckage, remixing Cher's words into viral soundtracks, slow-mo edits, and even auto-tuned diss tracks so catchy you'd think Drake ghost wrote them. And the reactions? Oh, the reactions were brutal. Celebrities, influencers, and even the usually silent Stay Nouveau types couldn't resist. Some dropped cryptic laughing emojis like little digital mic drops. Others went full savage, proudly reposting clips with captions like, "She said what she said, no lies detected." Even the folks who wouldn't normally touch politics with a 10-foot pole were front row, popcorn in hand, living for every second like it was the grand finale of an award show where Cher herself had just walked away with every trophy. In one flawless strike, Cher didn't just call him out. She body-slammed his ego, shattered his PR armor, and left the man's timeline looking like a disaster relief zone. The mic wasn't just dropped, it was launched into orbit. The only thing left hanging in the air was one burning question. How would Trump recover? And more importantly, was this Cher signing off? Or was she just clearing her throat for Act 2?
In America could realize what kind of a person he is. What kind of, yes, but worse than that. And probably not very good. But
you could practically sense the explosion brewing the second Cher opened her mouth and lit Trump up like a 4th of July grand finale. It wasn't just a clapback. It was like dropping a match into a room full of fireworks inside a gas station. There was zero chance he was going to eat that hit quietly and move on. And right on cue, just as the internet was finally wiping the tears from its eyes after laughing itself breathless, boom, Trump went full nuclear over on Truth Social. It wasn't just a post, it was an emotional earthquake. Fury, all caps, exclamation points flying around like a toddler got hold of the keyboard. His response wasn't typed. It was pounded out so hard his poor phone probably filed for workplace harassment. You could almost picture him pacing around Mar-a-Lago in his slippers, red in the face, yelling at advisors who were already Googling how to survive a Cher dragging. Of course, his go-to playbook was cracked open immediately. Deny everything, deflect like his life depended on it, hurl playground-level insults, and twist the whole situation until somehow, magically, the victim was him. Classic, because when Trump gets called out, it never ends with humility or reflection. It always ends with him spinning the story harder than a Fox News intern on a caffeine bender. And this time, Cher handed him the script, the mic, and the moment, and all he could do was fumble it into another all-caps meltdown for the history books.
Take a look at some of the people that claimed that they would leave America if Donald Trump became president again. In 2020, Barbara Streisand raised eyebrows when she said she'd move to England if Trump won a second term. She's still there. We, of course, saw Ellen leave with her partner, Portia de Rossi. She went to the Cotswolds in the UK. And actress America Ferrera claimed that she might be leaving at some point. Sharon Stone also said that she might move to Italy. Bring us up to speed on the celebrities that wanted to flee the States and those that are actually going to stick around.
And let's not skip over the most laughable part, Trump's desperate attempt to downplay Cher's entire career. I mean, seriously? Coming for someone who spent more decades at the top of music, film, and pop culture than he's spent dodging lawsuits was a bold choice. And by bold, I mean catastrophically dumb. This is a woman who stacked up more awards than Trump's racked up bankruptcies. A living legend who's walked through Hollywood, social media flame wars, and public opinion swings like it was all just cardio. She's faced every trend, every critic, and every era without so much as smudging her eyeliner. And his grand plan was to pretend she's the one who's irrelevant? Talk about bad strategy. But the real kicker? The absolute chef's kiss of the whole meltdown was the accidental self-own. Trump got so heated, so frantic to erase her legacy that he ended up rattling off her resume like a proud fanboy, listing off all the decades she's stayed relevant, still filling arenas, still winning awards, still being the moment. It was like watching someone argue that Michael Jordan wasn't really that impressive while casually listing all 6 of his championship rings. Pure comedy. And while he was busy tying himself into rhetorical knots, his inner circle was hitting full DEFCON panic. His PR team probably hadn't scrambled this hard since the last time he mistook a classified document for a takeout menu. They were likely huddled in a war room, trying to figure out how to spin the fact that he accidentally gave Cher a career boost while attempting to tear her down. Over at Fox News, you could practically hear the producers dusting off their greatest hits. Hollywood elite, out of touch, typical liberal, like that tired script was gonna save the day. But the internet? Oh, the internet wasn't buying the rerun. The memes were already minted, the clips were in circulation, and the verdict was in. Cher won this round before the bell even rang.
Okay, you have, rightly so, been incredibly outspoken about your disapproval of President Donald Trump. Say one nice thing about him.
What's one nice thing about him? There's nothing nice about him. I can't say one nice.
And then, right on schedule, came the most predictable part of the meltdown, the nicknames. Because of course, Trump couldn't resist slapping together some half-baked, kindergarten-level insult, the kind of name that sounded less like a burn and more like a rejected drag queen audition. Classic Trump. Aiming for savage, landing somewhere between cringy and downright embarrassing. Meanwhile, Cher, the undisputed queen of reinvention, the woman who's rocked more iconic looks than Trump's had court dates, could have flipped any of his weak jabs into a merch empire by lunchtime. Honestly, she was probably already fielding calls to slap that nonsense onto t-shirts, coffee mugs, and limited edition perfume. Ode to Trump Tantrum has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? But the best part? Cher didn't even lift a perfectly manicured finger to clap back. She didn't have to. The internet was already deep frying him on her behalf while Trump spiraled into an all-caps rage fit, pounding away at his phone like it owed him money. Meanwhile, Cher was likely stretched out somewhere, cocktail in hand, watching the chaos unfold like it was her own personal halftime show. living proof that when you're truly iconic, you let the world do the roasting for you.
On paper, he looks so good, you know. He was brought up rich. He had a good education. He's got all these young chicks. I don't know how young, but he's got all these young chicks, and he just keeps trading them in on younger chicks. And he's got all this money, and he's famous, and still he's such a dick.
Because here's the thing: Cher isn't just a legend. She's built from a material tougher than fame itself. She's outlasted every trend, every industry shakeup, every attempt to write her off, and walked away with her crown shinier every single time. Meanwhile, Trump? He's not so much a public figure these days as he is the human equivalent of a knockoff souvenir. All caps, all ego, and one giant walking punchline. And this time, the joke landed squarely on him with extra sparkle. Cher wasn't just winning this exchange, she was absolutely steamrolling it. The moment Trump fumbled his weak attempt at a comeback, the internet went into full meltdown mode. GIFs flying, memes multiplying, and Cher standing right in the middle of it all, cool as ever, untouched, and totally undefeated. While Trump scrambled to glue his shredded ego back together and tried and failed to hijack the narrative, Cher was practically basking in the spotlight, playing it like the seasoned headliner she's always been, knowing full well the encore was already in her pocket. Even funnier, his little flub with her name didn't fade away. It went viral. What started as a typo quickly snowballed into a full-on cultural moment, and Cher? Oh, she knew exactly how to flip it into gold. Instead of firing back with anger, she leaned into the chaos, wearing her new accidental persona like it was custom-made for her, proving once again that when the world tries to hand Cher an insult, she just turns it into merch, a meme, and a moment all in one breath.
You feel that you need to speak out?
Well, first of all, I'm a citizen. And that's my right. I've been through 11 presidents. We've been afraid of different countries, you know, and we've been afraid of different actions from those countries. I never thought that I would fear actions from my own country.
You're always very vocal about women's issues and supportive. Are you encouraged by the changes that are happening?
I am. I'm so much. I am so happy, and it's taken so long. I remember what you had to go through, and men patting you on the head, you know, and you're a star, and you're making all this money, and men are still...
Online, nobody was arguing about politics, policies, or ancient scandals. The internet had way more important things to do. Comment sections had turned into full-blown Cher fan clubs. People were swapping their profile pics for vintage album covers, and fan edits were popping up faster than Trump could hit send on his next all-caps meltdown. At one point, someone even edited Cher riding a golden chariot straight into battle like she was leading the charge against bad spray tans and fragile egos. The internet had picked a side, and spoiler alert, it wasn't the guy holed up in his Florida golden bunker, rage posting into the digital void like the Wi-Fi signal personally betrayed him. Trump's frustration was reaching full meltdown mode. Every time he tried to yank the spotlight back onto himself, the internet just doubled down on the Cher celebration. His posts weren't getting the fear, respect, or attention he craved. They were getting screenshots, slapped onto memes, and laughed out of relevance before he could even hit post. No matter how loud he yelled, how many exclamation points he hurled, or how desperate he got to claw back control of the conversation, the world had officially moved on. The Cher show had taken center stage, and nobody was leaving their seats. Cher could feel it, that moment when the fight stops being a battle and simply becomes one person taking a victory lap while the other is still screaming into the void. You could almost see it in her. The effortless confidence, the quiet acknowledgement that the war was over before the first shot was even fired. She didn't need to go overboard or make a big deal out of it. A perfectly timed remark here, a subtle laugh there, maybe a wink or a smirk, just enough to let the world know she wasn't just playing the game, she was the one running it. And then, in the middle of all this chaos, someone unearthed Trump's old grudge against Cher. That tired, half-baked jab he'd thrown years ago about her career being over. The irony was almost poetic. While he was flailing around trying to hold on to whatever scraps of dignity he had left, Cher was out there effortlessly owning the biggest viral moment of the week. His insults had aged like a forgotten carton of milk, sour, stale, and totally irrelevant. Meanwhile, Cher, timeless, untouchable, and completely unbothered. She didn't need to respond because the internet had already crowned her the queen of this round.
You know, none of us are perfect, but I believe she's genuine, and I believe, unlike Trump, who his friend of 20 years said the other night, Donnie George, said,
He doesn't want to be president. He wants to, no one's more surprised than him. He wants the crowds, he wants the adulation, he doesn't give a about the world.
That television hosts couldn't get enough of it. Late-night monologues were dripping with secondhand embarrassment for Trump, while his usual defenders struggled to spin the situation in his favor. I mean, what were they supposed to defend? A man so rattled by a pop icon that he accidentally gave her a fresh brand identity? It was a masterclass in self-sabotage, so flawless, no PR team could have fixed it. The entire debacle had morphed into something far bigger than just a petty back and forth. It became a cultural turning point, a snapshot of what happens when a pop legend stands tall and unshaken while a flailing ex-president drowns in the digital abyss. The contrast was brutal. On one side, Cher was effortlessly riding the wave of a viral storm, basking in the glow of a movement she didn't even need to start. On the other, Trump was spiraling in real time, trapped in a battle he didn't even realize he'd started, fighting against a joke he had accidentally created. It was a humiliation so complete, it made his Twitter rants look like a bad reality TV show.
It's got pretty much control over if you live, or if you can feed your children, or you can pay your rent, or you can do whatever, or if you're here illegally, or a million different things.
By the time the dust finally settled, it wasn't even about who said what anymore. It was about who walked away with their legacy still intact. Trump threw everything he could at her. But at the end of the day, he couldn't change the undeniable truth. Cher wasn't just a winner, she was eternal. She didn't just make noise, she was on a full-blown warpath, spreading her influence from Provincetown to Miami to Fire Island. She wasn't just attending fundraisers, she was turning them into legendary pop spectacles. Political speeches? Please. Cher didn't just give speeches, she turned everyone into a performance. Every room she entered became a stadium, every microphone a stage, and every Trump joke became an instant hit single. It wasn't even about Cher versus Trump anymore, it was a movement. She had an army behind her, drag queens, Cher impersonators, diehard fans who'd been with her since the 66. They all answered the call, and they weren't just showing up to cheer her on, they were showing up to roast Trump to a crisp. At every event, there were multiple versions of Cher. Glam Cher, disco Cher, leather-clad turn-back time Cher, each one armed with the same mission, annihilate Trump's ego with style. It was no longer just a clash of titans, it was a cultural phenomenon. And as always, Cher, she was the undisputed star of the show. The fundraisers, they didn't feel like political gatherings, they felt more like sold-out Vegas residencies. In between fiery speeches, Cher would belt out a classic hit, throw in a punchline aimed at Trump, and then sash into another chorus while the crowd roared in appreciation. She wasn't just endorsing a candidate, she was leading a full-blown movement, armed with sequins, sass, and a microphone. Meanwhile, Trump, he was somewhere in his gilded fortress still trying to figure out how Cher became the most powerful name on the internet. At the end of the day, Trump can fire off as many rage-fueled all-caps rants as he wants, but let's be real, Cher has already won. While Trump had tweets, Cher had an entire untouchable legacy. She's outlasted disco, defeated auto-tune, and conquered every decade since the 60s. And Trump? He's still somewhere struggling to figure out how to close an umbrella. The difference is clear. One is playing the game, the other is the game. And as for the whole past her expiration date argument, nice try. Cher has been defying time, logic, and gravity for over half a century. She survived fashion choices that should have ended careers, reinvented herself more times than anyone can count, and still manages to sell out shows like she's in her prime. Meanwhile, Trump's biggest claim to youthfulness is his spray tan and an endless supply of cheeseburgers. But let's be real, this battle is far from over. Cher's got a Rolodex of clapbacks and zero fear of speaking her mind. Trump? He's incapable of letting anything go. If you think this feud ends here, think again. The next time Trump so much as sneezes on Truth Social, Cher will be right there, armed with another knockout punch. And you better believe when the dust finally settles, Cher will still be standing. Probably in a bedazzled bodysuit, singing If I Could Turn Back Time. While Trump is left desperately wishing he could turn back to a time when he didn't pick a fight with an icon. And that, my friends, is the story of how Cher didn't just silence the haters, she made them part of her show. Through every jab, every comeback, and every unexpected twist, she proved once again why she's a living legend and why her legacy is untouchable. While Trump may still be trying to figure out how to handle a social media feud, Cher is out here setting standards, dropping iconic moments, and turning every moment into an unforgettable performance. So, If you're living for these roasts, the shade, and the ultimate diva power moves, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let me know your favorite Cher moment, or maybe who you think is next to face the wrath of the diva. Until next time, keep shining and keep serving those iconic vibes.